Okay, I'm going to start this thing here. Everybody should be able to see that. I hope you can see that.
Yep.
Everybody can see this, the share screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. And everybody also remembers up in the right-hand corner of your screen, you have a bunch of tabs you can look at there and see as many participants as you want as we go through these share screen presentation, okay? And so you can play with that a little bit. Murray, you going to put everyone on mute, or are you going to
Just ask people to do, because sometimes I mess up when I click the wrong thing.
Okay, all right. So everybody, if they just individually go on mute until you want to say something, and we want you to say something, so come off mute to participate. I know on my laptop here, I just hit the space bar and it comes off mute as long as I hold the space bar down, and yours might be a little bit differently, work a little differently, but take a look at that. Okay, so let's go ahead. We've got some really good topics, I think, tonight. We'll start with just our normal open for any questions or comments that we might have from previous meetings that you want to raise up. We've introduced a new topic called All About Us, and the idea behind that is just to introduce or reintroduce ourselves to the group. We're a growing group, and so it'd be nice to say who we are, where we're from, how we got into carving, what kind of carving we're doing, do we carve with a club, those types of things. We're not going to take a half an hour a person, but if we take 10 minutes a person just to introduce ourselves, and maybe have 3 people per meeting introduce themselves, that'd be a nice way in the course of the year to get in front of everybody who we are. Okay. We're also going to talk about upcoming shows. So there's a couple of upcoming shows, both here in Canada and the US, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll do our normal what's on the bench, and that's basically, you folks have sent me in photographs of your carvings, of what you've recently completed or what's on the bench right now, or even what you're planning to work on, and we'll just spend a few minutes talking about that. We did want to bring back one topic that we introduced some time ago, probably better than a year ago now, and that's sharpening. And I've always said I think that sharpening is probably the most important part of carving, and if you can get that right, you've almost guaranteed that you've improved your projects by 20%, and certainly improved your enjoyment of working on the project by 20%. So I'm going to go through a few things there, and a few people have sent in a few photographs already to include in that conversation, and so they're going to chip in. But if you haven't sent in photographs, still want you to be part of the discussion. We want to get all of the good notions out about sharpening so that we all become better carvers. If we have some time, John Paul would like to talk about planning for 2024, just in terms of what could we do as a group and what you might be interested in seeing. And then if there's any notions about tips, tricks, and techniques, we'll deal with that as well. Okay. All right. So any questions or comments to start with? Richard, you just want to mute there. I notice your picture keeps coming up with shuffling papers and things. So any questions or comments from anyone? Okay. Well, let's start with this notion about All About Us. And so we've had a few volunteers. So Benoit, Joy, and Elliot are all going to talk a little bit about their experience. But I got to admit, I sent out that note to everybody just to poke a little fun at John Paul and Murray, and telling you how long they were going to take to go through their 50-page presentation. And I started feeling a little bit bad about that. So I thought what I'd do to appease them is just show you maybe a little bit of a preview of what they'll be going over. So this is one of the earlier pictures of John Paul and Murray and I at our first carving show. And they'll start with that, and they have several other photos to share with you. Okay, Benoit, it's all yours. If you want to come off of mute, I've got a few slides for you here.
Yeah, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well.
Good. Yeah, I'm pretty new to carving. I started in 2020 when the COVID hits us. So I was on YouTube and I saw a guy that was carving, and I said, "Oh, maybe I should try that. It's fun. It looks fun." So this is my first one, the one on the left there, and then I continue and I try to improve my skill there. And there's no club around here. I'm from Montreal, near 1 hour up of Montreal, in the Laurentides there. So there's no club around here. But well, I don't know any club. So I'm a self-taught carver there. So yeah, those were my first one. Then the next page, I started to do like a gnome and start to do like a small personnage there. And then the last one I did, it's on the next page, but it's really small. It's a 2-inch little carving. It's that big there, so it's not that big. And yeah, it's fun. I like it. And I joined
you're doing really well, Benoit. Those are really nice looking carvings.
Thank you. And
Now,
but I still strong. I'm still have a lot of trouble with eyes and faces, and it's not easy.
Talk a little bit about how you paint it, how you finish it, because I really like the colors and the finish on it.
Yeah, first of all, I put oil on it, then I let it dry for a night, and the day after I just with the same kind of paint that you use, acrylic paint there. And I diluted with water, and I just paint my carving. And then at the end, I put a little I don't know how you call it. It's a flat
like a urethane, a polyurethane, or something.
Yeah, a flat one.
Yeah,
just to finish it. So yeah,
they look really nice. Now, in terms of clubs around you, can anybody help with that? Because I know, we had the Ottawa shows, and a lot of really good carvers from Quebec attended. Can anybody help with Benoit? Suggest contact?
I suggest to get a hold of Mark Leclerc in Ottawa, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's far away from me. It's like
he has a list of contacts from all over Quebec and Eastern.
Oh yeah. What's his name again?
Leclerc is the last name. I think we'd have to get it if you could email me.
Okay.
And that would be a good way to do it. We'll start from that point.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good carvers from Quebec that show up at the Ottawa carving show, so I'm sure you won't have too hard a time finding a spot.
Okay, good.
There's a number that come from Montreal.
Good.
All right.
Okay, thanks for that, Benoit. Does anybody have any questions for Benoit, or any comments?
I really like his wood burning. His wood burning is well on, right? It's spot on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I
add some nice detail.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
You really have progressed in a couple of years. It's amazing.
Yeah, look, from that, to that.
Wow, that's a winner.
Yeah. Good job. Thanks,
Mark, I bought some of the carvings from the carvers at St. John Paul-Joly.
Yeah.
And was stuff far outranks a lot of those guys. So yeah, it's well done. Excellent work.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I think we've corresponded before, you and I, Benoit.
Yeah, that's
you.
you.
True North Carver. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice
yeah,
to meet
I
you.
recognize the carvings right away.
Thank you.
Yeah. Nice job. Yeah, very nice. Yeah.
Well, it's nice to have you with this group, Benoit.
Thank you very much.
Joy, I have a few slides for you here, and I've put in quite a few photos on the slide, but maybe you can kind of use them to talk about who you are and what you've been doing.
Well, I'm Joy Woodward, and I started carving back in 2016 or so. I had just kept on driving past the Halton Wood Carvers little studio every day on my way home from work. And one day I stopped in and they got me hooked. So my first thing I ever did was that little comfort bird. And I went into the shop to find out how I would finish it. And Ruth had told me, you're not finished yet. You got to really sand that bird, because it's a comfort bird. You're supposed to worry it. So anyway, and then my second thing I ever did was the dolphin. And then I worked on the wave that I did on my own, and the stingray. And then I did a whole bunch of Christmas stuff. I've done Santas and so forth. And little dog, he won something with chipping away at one point. And little cat. That bird I just did last year, I guess, with the Bayshore carvers. They were teaching us how to do that, and they're in Woodland Beach.
Very good.
And
Where are you located, Joy?
I'm in Collingwood
Okay.
right now, but I used to be in Halton as the Halton Wood Carvers.
And have you had some of your carvings at wood shows or competitions?
Oh yeah, lots of them, and I won quite a bit. This haunted house bark carving, I won a best in show for novice that year, and I thought, wow, I'm over the moon here.
Yeah,
Right?
congratulations.
And then those are the other bark carvings, and then I've done intarsia and wood burnings, a lot of stuff. I've tried everything, I think, and now I want to do more character carvings. Those are more of my wood burnings, and then the birds on the wire are, I broke it taking pictures of it today, or for this. The wire broke because it's really a dowel, and that was a 2x4 challenge that the Woodstock Wood Show had one year, and I had entered my stuff, and I cut up all the little pieces of 2x4 spruce, pretty hard stuff. It's not like basswood at all. And did that.
Now, this notion here, and I think it's the same over here, is that your own idea, Joy?
No, I got that from watching a little video clip called For the Birds by Pixar. So if you ever want to watch that, that's where I got the idea for that.
But that's an original carving for you. You got the ideas from somewhere else, but that's your carvings. Yeah, very good. I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any more that you put? I sent in a couple of things.
No, I think that was all I had. Those.
Okay.
Maybe I didn't.
Right now I belong to the Collingwood Chippers.
Very good. And how big is that group, Joy?
Maybe 12 people.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Just on the side, Joy, I get requests from a number of places, and one of them recently came from a little bit south and west of you, I think it is, where they've got a son that would like to carve, and Grandpa's down in Niagara Falls. Grandpa bought him a knife for Christmas, I think. And I'm trying to line somebody up to do some, talk to him or see him about whatever. So it would be good to connect with you on that.
Well, the Collingwood Chippers, we meet at the senior center on Minnesota Street in Collingwood. So I don't know.
This young fellow's about 12 years old. I don't think he'd be able to come to a meeting, but try to get him connected with an individual.
Well, we've had young kids come in and sit in, so it's okay. It's Tuesday mornings.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions for Joy?
Very nice carvings. Very nice.
Thank you.
I used to belong to the Halton Wood Carvers too.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Back in the day?
Yeah, back behind north of Georgetown, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glenn Williams.
Glenn Williams, yes.
John Paul was that 12-year-old kid that you invited in. Okay, thank you, Joy. Elliot, do you want to say a few words? I have 3 slides here for you.
Okay, my name's Elliot Dayton. I live in Malton, which is near the Pearson Airport. I started wood carving in 2008, and I took a few workshops at Leave Alley Tools and a wood shop that was called Nutmeg in Brampton, which closed up probably 2014 or so. But at that store, I took 3 classes with Eldon Humphreys, who was a CCA the only Canadian who has been in that group. And honestly, they have 25 at a time that I guess you would call them active members. And back in those days, Eldon was one of the 25.
Elliot, I'm just going to interrupt for a minute, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Elliot, there's somebody on the line here that's logged in as iPad 2, and whatever you're doing with your iPad, you're scribbling all over our presentation here, and we can't get rid of that. So do what you can to erase that and try to
I
keep
see
from,
that. Yeah.
So it's
The,
listed in it as iPad 2. So
There it goes.
yeah, and you
There's
got
one
some other ones
gone.
there too. If you can erase
There's another one
There you
gone,
go.
and there's
Okay.
that one. Okay.
we're
Perfect.
rocking. We
Hooray.
can rock and roll
Thank you.
again.
All
ahead.
right. So 2009 at the OWCA show, I put in the piece in the middle of the slide, and it's called John's New Hat, and that was a Eldon Humphreys piece, not his piece, but his pattern, and he taught that at Nutmeg, and at a bunch of clubs that year. Anyway, I won a first and a second in the beginners class and in group. So that was the first year I carved. The ornament on the left is my last and newest piece. Now I carved that after your last talk and show, Mark.
Mhm.
You didn't. You've not seen that yet.
Mhm.
The carp on the top right is a stylized piece that was in what's the English wood carving magazine called? Is it carving?
I can only think of Wood Carving Illustrated.
No,
The English
one
one
that
just simply
comes.
called the Carving Magazine.
Yeah, it comes from the UK. Anyway, that piece was that goes back a few years. That one, but it was a piece that was in that I did. That's about 4-5 inches long. It's a enlarged copy of a ivory piece that's quite old called Netsuke, or Netsuke, which is a Japanese toggle that they wore on their belts. The lower right is my first golf ball of this year. Well, no, it's the first golf ball I've carved ever, and that's my old dog that passed away 4 or
Hmm.
5 years ago.
Hmm.
And yeah, I was surprised.
Those are nice.
I got golf ball calves well.
Nice.
I'm also a fly tyer and a fly fisherman, and I have taught both in the past. So my love of fish is in my wood carving too. These are fish decoys that are actually lead weighted to go down an ice hole, and you can now it's more in the States than here. Here, I think there's 1 or 2 lakes in Ontario that you can still harpoon through the ice. There's more in the States, in the northern states like Minnesota and Wisconsin. And they use these a lot in the States still. And what they do, so it's like a duck decoy for fishing, and it attracts larger fish in, mainly pike, I think, and lake trout, and attracts those larger fish in, which they can then entice them up to the top of the hole, and where they harpoon them and then haul them out on the ice.
Never heard
But
of that.
but mine are for show. Although they are weighted and balanced so they swim. So they sink on a line, of course. They sink, they stay horizontal, and they're curved. So the perch on the left has the tail curved towards you. The brook trout is curved towards you. The bottom one is a piece I did for a frame. So I also, in the past, I have done underbox work, big, deep shadow box framing with flies and smaller models of fish. The brook trout on the bottom is only a 4-inch piece.
Those are really nice, really interesting.
This goes, okay, so the piece on the left goes back to 2009, that show. And that was the other piece I had in that show. And it's a group. This is the first Santa Claus that I did, the big one in the middle. And the elves on the back, there's 2, 4, 5 elves on the back, and 2 of the smaller ones. The smaller ones are carved on 1 by 1 by 3, I think. The one in the middle and the elves are carved by a 2.5 by 2.5. Again, flat on the back. So they go through a bandsaw on the skew, so you get the flat back, and you carve the nose on the corner of the 2 sides that slope up to the middle. I got a first and a third, I think, in that one.
Those are beautiful. Those are beautiful. Now this one here, Elliot, I've heard, I don't know if it's accurate, but in Minnesota they use this for harpooning.
Yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised. Don't you know? Yeah, that's a brook trout elf, and that's my son's piece. Yeah, again, that's on a 2.5 by 2.5 triangular shaped block, probably about 8 inches long. The tail, the fish's tail, is a pearlized top clear coat that Michaels has in the craft paint aisle, with tiny little pearlized flecks in the clear coat.
Very nice.
Yeah,
those are beautiful carvings. And just,
thank you.
yeah.
And that's it, I guess. Yeah.
Any questions
So
or
I'm glad
comments?
to be in the group. I'm glad to be in the group, and I've watched you since probably early 2021, I think, or
Mhm. Yeah, that'd be about right.
halfway through, and enjoyed all your talks and learned a lot. And I thought, well, it's about time I got involved.
Very
So
good.
thank you.
Well, it was nice to hear from you and Joy and Benoit. And I think we're going to be learning a lot from you three as well. So you got some really
Oh,
nice,
and John
really nice
Paul,
carvings here.
John Paul,
Yeah.
Ilana Miller says hello.
Oh, okay.
You remember, you remember
Oh yeah.
her.
Oh yeah. Oh
I'm in
yeah.
the Brampton. I'm in the Brampton wood on this group. It's not
Yeah.
allowed to be called a club, but she has led that group for 19 years now,
Wow. Wow.
and she goes now. She's down to 3 days a week, but she was up to 4. So she
Wow.
does an acrylic class too. She paints a acrylic class, and she does the wood on Irving group on a Wednesday and and Wednesday, and I think
Tell her to get on the
Tuesday
Zoom call.
is
There you go. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you,
Tell her to
Elliot.
get on
I
the Zoom.
will. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank
Thank
I'm
you.
you.
done.
Okay, Benoit, Joy, Elliot, thank you very much for that. And so that's something we want to repeat at every Zoom call now. Upcoming shows. Wanted to talk about this, Murray. I don't have a lot of information on it. I'm not sure if anybody's on the call tonight from the Quinty Club. If there is, I'll shut up.
I haven't had the information on this yet, and I know there's another one coming in the Waterloo will be the big duck show.
Yeah, well, this one just came out. I saw a note on just the other day from Lisa Thompson. So it's April 13th, which is a Saturday, 1-day event. This is a very good show. We had a lot of fun at it last year. Murray had a table for the Ontario Woodcarvers Association, one for us, True North Caricature Carvers. Many of you know that I'm from Kingston, and the Kingston Club had a table, and we had an awful lot of fun at this one. So it's a good show, and if you can make it to this, it's well worth your while. Another show that is coming up is in Colorado Springs. Now, I know that Craig Severn and I think John LeMay is planning to attend. So I'm just going to get you guys to talk a little bit about this. If you're there, you'll have to come off mute. Okay, I don't hear the guys, but Craig Severn has talked to me a couple times. He's planning to attend this. It's put on by the Caricature Carvers of America, and it's actually a week-long show, and they have all kinds of different things going on, including seminars and whatnot. John LeMay and his wife are planning to attend as well, I believe. And it's a long ways away, Colorado Springs, but we have some TNCC members that are from Western Canada. So it's basically straight down from Saskatchewan. So, you know, if you're in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, it might be within driving distance for you. So something to look at anyway. Sorry that Craig and John aren't on the line tonight to talk about it. Okay. So let's turn to what's on the bench, and a number of you sent in some really nice photos, and so let's start. Mike, are you on the line? You can speak to a couple of photos here.
Sure. Yes, that's right. The club got invited once again to participate in a New Year's Eve thing at our fort. We have Fort William here, which is a 50-year-old now, or a reproduction of a fur trading fort that was Northwest Company Fort. They set this up to be 1815, actually, that fort. That fort later became a Hudson Bay Company fort after the takeover. anyway, we were invited, a small table. We had double table, good size. My friend Larry there, Larry Salmon, and this is, in fact, Larry did that beautiful carved Thunderbay Carver's sign in relief there. But anyway, we got the banner done. And if you have a club banner needs to be done, I think that was only about $100, so a really pretty good deal. So we were inside in a provisions building, it's called, and it was at 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock night thing, New Year's Eve. A lot of fun. And Larry was showing off his work on very fine work he does on fish and birds. And I had a lot of hands-on kinds of things. So everything I brought, the public could pick it up. And what it was actually carving was my latest carving that I'm working on is great blue heron, life size. It's hollowed out. I got the blank from our club's founder, Les Barrow. And it's the head and neck are separate pieces. And so I'm just busy carving this away. And I've been working at that for about 2 months now when I get to carving. So there we were at the fort doing a show, and we'll be doing a Fur Traders Rendezvous coming up in February. So we're in kind of a new liaison with this historic attraction in Thunder Bay. Invite anyone to visit if you're ever there. So that's that picture.
Very nice. It's a beautiful looking carving too.
It's
Yeah.
coming, it's a lot of work to go.
Yeah.
So, but it's fun. It'll be my biggest bird.
Mm.
I'm gonna do a sort of semi-slick. I'm just indicating feather groups rather than I won't be doing burning and stoning and all that stuff. I like the look of that natural finish. It's white pine, and although it's a blank that was prepared years ago with metal legs too, by the way, the wood carved just beautifully well. So it's I'll be aiming the head so it faces the best side of the way the wood is as far as the grain will show up with the semi-clear finish I'll be putting on.
Looks
I'll
like
show
it's
you
gonna be
that.
beautiful.
I'll show you that someday.
Yeah, it looks like it'll be beautiful. Any
Thanks.
questions for Mike? Okay, thanks, Mike. Larry. Okay, if Larry's not on the line, or if he is, he can come off mute and jump in. So Larry's been doing some caricature, and he's been trying to do females. And so this was his first stab at it. This is his second stab at a female face. It's interesting, I've just started recently to do female faces as well. I find it easier to do a man's caricature face than a female's caricature face. So it's a real challenge. And I think Larry's done a really nice job on this. And he's got one on the bench right now that he's just starting to work at, and you can see he's gone to Pinterest or something to get a nice model in those 3 photos in the background, and he's got a nice setup with a vise, and he's going to start working at that. But if you want a challenge, you want to try a female face. It's a little bit more difficult than a man's caricature, but it's fun to give a try. Okay. And he also sent in these. These were a couple that he did after our virtual Christmas show. And he's got some nice ideas here. I like this little crescent moon Santa. And of course, he's done a nice job here on the bell with the bow and the little hoodie guy. So he's done a nice job. So we'll thank Larry for those. Roger, are you on the line tonight? So Roger's got a few that he sent in. I know Roger wasn't feeling very well in the last couple of days. Did a real nice job here. I think this was a Chris Hammock design, or kind of it's sold as a rough out. I think that Roger made his own based on a Chris Hammock design. And then he's got a little gnome here that's turning out really well. And he's kind of the champion of sweaters. And you can see that he's just about made everybody he knows a sweater here, and he's done a nice job with that. And finally, a Christmas bell. He's made a few of those and is interested in doing a few more of those. And he also did that little hoodie guy turned into a winter guy. So nice job on all of those. Now, I know Roy's on the line tonight. I know Roy's on the line tonight.
Yeah, these were Christmas presents. I did the one that I entered for the Christmas contest was for my son's partner, and of course, then he hinted that he wanted something. So, and he plays a lot of flight simulator. So this is what I did here for him, the flight simulator.
That's really cute.
And of course, after I did one for the daughter-in-law and then my son, of course, my wife wanted one. So I did this one, and I used to put up a little something on my table that I carved and to try and keep it a surprise from her. And yeah, she was surprised.
That's really
Nice
nice.
job.
I like what you do with the lights here. I think the lights are real smart.
Yeah, they're cramped. It's hard, your fingers cramp up doing the small little ones like that.
Oh, you don't do those on the lathe then?
No, they're all hand carved.
Really nice. I really like that. Any comments, questions for Roy?
Nice job, Roy.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Marlene, you have some interesting.
Yeah, Roy. Oh, I'm
Oh.
sorry, Mark.
Yeah, go ahead, Elliot.
Are all the toys loose, or are they all one block?
No, they're loose. They're carved individually, and I put little toothpicks in them.
Okay,
I drill a hole in the top of the sack, and then fitted them down in and glued them in that way.
really nice job, Roy. Nice.
And of course, the candy canes are Mark's idea. Just use electrical wire and cut it off, and then painted it.
Ah, yeah. Okay, smart. No, great job.
Looks smart.
Thank you.
Yeah, it does.
Hey, Marlene, you have some interesting carvings here. I've never seen these designs before. I'll let you come off the mute and talk a little bit about those.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there's a bit of an echo, but we can hear you.
Something seems to be an echo here.
Maybe turn the volume down on your computer. Maybe that'll help.
Okay, let me do that. How's that?
That's much better.
Okay. The first two that you see here, the man and woman, they are, I think, from a magazine cover from Lee Valley many years ago, and I just copied the design. Now this one, I can't remember. I saw them somewhere when I was travels in the States, and took a picture and came home and made a pattern, but they're barefoot. I have no idea. There's some sort of a Santa, but the difficulty is carving on the end grain, the face.
Those are really unique.
Yeah.
These are really unique. Yeah.
I don't know. I have one of these here in my hand. Now I don't know how to show it to you.
Mhm.
The bottom, the feet. I should have taken a picture.
You can just hold it up to the camera there, Marlene.
Someone said something.
You can just hold that up to your camera if you like.
Oh. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was quite fun. Now the big Santa, I don't know, some magazine somewhere I got the pattern from, but the little guys were postcards that my son would send me from Finland. They're little they're called tontu. So each year he would send me one, and I would enlarge the card and carve the little fellow.
Those are really unique. We're gonna have to take a closer look at those someday.
If anyone wants patterns, I'll do them.
Good, thank you.
And I got on a kick of doing the gnomes from different countries. And of course, if you check this one out, it's our sort of Canadian fellow with, from Tetley Tea with the little jingles on his feet. and the other one is the British lamplighter. I have a lot more.
Well, that's good. We'll have to see. These are really unique. We'll have to take a closer look at those. I really like
Yeah.
these patterns here. That is just completely
But
unique.
anytime you want patterns, give me a call. I've got them.
Okay,
Many. I have many more.
good. Any questions or comments from Marlene? Okay, thank you, Marlene.
Okay. Night night.
Okay, so this is one that I did for my grandson. And he opened that and couldn't have cared less. He's only a year and a half old, but I enjoyed doing it. And so you can see he's on snowshoes. So this is a little guy on snowshoes, a little Santa on snowshoes, and he's got a woven basket on his back and a branch with a lantern. And as Roy was saying about his little sack of toys, I did this the same way. All of those toys are done independently and just doweled in place and glued in place. I find that a lot easier, and you're not working with the end grain of the wood when you do it this way. And so I was pleased with the way that thing turned out. Any questions for me?
I like the basket there, Mark. It looks good.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Just a little woven basket. It was easy.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Turned out nice.
Hey, Mark, the snowshoes are done separate or
Yeah,
together?
the snowshoes and the boots, the black boots you see on the bottom, were done separate, and they were glued or doweled and glued into the bottom of the skirt of his Santa Claus suit. And the reason I did that, of course, is because generally the grain is going up and down, and I was concerned if the grain was going up and down on this snowshoe, eventually that would just snap off. It would have been very weak. So as a result, I glued in this boot and snowshoe arrangement, and the grain goes in this direction. So it's a lot stronger.
It looks great. Yeah.
Mark,
Yeah.
do you do wood burning on yours as well?
I do a little bit. I try not to do too dark a wood burning on it because I find it's hard to cover with the paint afterwards. But I like to use the wood burning to delineate one color from another. So as an example, along here, the white fur from the red coat, I don't want the white to bleed into the red or the red to bleed into the white or my shaky hand to mix it up too much. So I use a fairly deep wood burning line there, and it makes a little bit of a valley. And if my paint is thin enough, it only goes that far. And if it's thin enough white, it'll only go that far. And it just helps me get a real nice crisp line where I want it to be.
What type of nib do you use on your wood burners?
It's nothing fancy. It's just kind of, I don't know, can you see this?
Okay.
Okay, just sort of the regular one. It just has a real razor edge on it and does a nice job.
Thanks.
Okay.
Mark,
Yes.
the fur trim on the hat and the coat, what tool did you use?
Yeah, I just have a smallish gouge. I don't have it with me here. It's downstairs.
Okay.
Just a smallish palm gouge, and I just go around and just take a little nip out of it.
A mil and a half, or two mil?
Yeah, it's probably closer to 2 mil. Yeah, it'd be like a
number 9 or 11.
It would be like a number 11 gouge and maybe 2 millimeters in width. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Sue, I have a couple slides from you, I think.
Yeah, I think so. In the face of all these beautiful carvings, these are just a couple of just little whittled pieces that I did. We've been at our club, we've been trying to get new members, giving them some learning opportunities. So we put on an introduction to carving course, and then I actually led that one. And then we also had another course right after, it's still before Christmas, so that we wanted to just do a little snowman. And this is not exactly what was done. I didn't lead that one. I was just there to assist the instructor, but that was what I did while I was sitting there poking away. And he's just a little basswood Santa or snowman. I mean, nothing special, but he turned out well. I was happy with him. So, yep,
Really
there
nice.
he is.
Really
Yeah.
nice. And you're right. It's a great little project for somebody that you're instructing.
Yeah, it's trying to get people to learn how to carve something that's perfectly round, because the actual club project didn't have that hat on it. It had like the perfectly round head, with just a like little beanie on it, so that they still, and the body itself did not have the vest or anything. It just had a small scarf, and there were actually, if I recall correctly, because I didn't design it, but there were 3 balls. And so it gave people a chance to really get used to rounding things off and getting rid of those square corners and that sort of thing. So let's say it was fun. Yeah, it was good.
Nice.
And we, we've been getting a few people out to these courses. The introductory course, we had 6 people out, and so that was good. So
Nice.
it's working out pretty good to bolster, the numbers at the club.
Good.
Yeah. And then the fellows on the left there were just a couple of little basswood guys that I did before Christmas, just on my own. I wanted to try to do some different style sweaters, so I ended up with those. They just kind of, that's definitely a whittle, no plan. I just sort of picked up a block and off I went. So yeah. And then the fellows on the right there, I think one of those was a Friday project at one of our carving clubs, like just for everybody to work on something. So the little penguin on the far left was that one. And then I added a couple of more other little guys on the right there to make a complete family. And they're just basswood, and it was just an opportunity to try some different painting styles and colors that I wanted to do. So that's it for that. And other than that, I've just been haven't had a lot of chance to do much of this sort of thing, because I've been working on study sticks of all things. I thought they'd be easy to carve, but carving the same thing over and over without getting too far ahead of yourself, if you're not thinking about what you're doing, is it's not as easy as I thought it was going to be, but I'm having fun with it.
That's good.
Yeah, and
These are-
that'll be for our next upcoming class for the beginners, so that they can start to learn to set a face without too much detail.
Very good.
Yeah.
Any comments
your
or questions for Sue?
Your painting is really, really good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice and clean. Nice and clean. It's really good.
Thanks. Thank you very
Well,
much.
I hope you
So-
don't mind, but I'm going to take a screen. I'm going to take a screenshot of those 2 little snowmen. I think
Go
they're
for it.
cute. Thank you.
Or if you want a clean copy or whatever, just send me an email at True North Carver,
No,
and I'll happily send you a nice good sized picture of it.
no, I've already got captured.
Oh,
it, so-
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Mike.
I said I was going to, but I'd already done it. so-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Good stuff.
It's
He's sharpening his knife right now.
Yeah.
Sorry,
The,
Sue,
uh,
I'm just wondering where your club is.
Our club is in Ottawa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the OWC, the Ottawa Woodcarvers.
Okay.
And so we've got about we have 68 members and 10 honoraries, so 78 members. And our numbers are definitely at our Friday meetings where we get together to carve, are definitely coming way up, and our monthly numbers of people coming back to the meetings are on the rise. So we're pretty happy about that, and hopefully our luck will hold.
Good.
Sue, I'm wondering about how you went about starting a beginner class. How did you advertise it? Was it on social media or through your own?
It was on our website. We put it on there, and we actually launched a new website at the very end of last year, and so far we've been getting some good traffic through there. It's owcarvers.com, and so we have a learning tab there, and under the learning tab it has upcoming courses, and you can also see the details of the courses that we've already done and who led them and that sort of thing. And one of our members has recently introduced us to a website called Meetup Ottawa. And it's just people who are really looking for different kind of activities, that sort of thing. And she did a post about the club, and it's gotten quite a bit of interest. We've got 3 or 4 people that are going to be at our next meeting as guests, and and there's also 3 of them that have contacted the club that are interested to find out when we're running the next introductory course. So we'll
Okay.
keep our fingers crossed.
Very good.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sue.
You're welcome.
Joy, did you want to talk about this carving? I've got a couple of slides here.
Hi, this is my fat Santa, and this is the first really big thing that I've done. And I found it challenging because my knife isn't very long and I can't get like between the legs and stuff. I never realized how you can do that, so
Yeah.
it's hard. And
Looks
then
good. I like his shape. Looks good.
he's fat. And then
He's
there's
fat.
my problem. So I want some people to chime in. I got your email about that.
Mhm.
My back or the sack that I'm making for him was an afterthought. And so I've got this piece of wood that's sitting there on the ground, and I have the little dowel that goes in it, but I have a space between the Santa and the sack, and I didn't know what I'm supposed to do. So anybody?
So I had sent a note to Joy talking about the thing that we've covered together as a group, where you etch the back of that sack, and so I was trying to describe to Joy the pastel that I use, and here it is, Joy. And
Okay.
I picked this up at a arch supply years and years and years ago, because I was actually etching paper with it against, you put something that's in relief and you etch the paper with it. I've always felt that there's a lot of lead in this, but it might just be pastel. But it's a brick. So I've used this. Others on the call will tell you what they've used, but the idea behind it is all the same. The fact that you've doweled it already allows you to take that sack away and put it in exactly the same spot every time. So if you go along the back of the Santa Claus, around the dowel and down past his belt and his rear there, where the sack is going to fall, and you just etch it all over with this, you're blackening it all. When you put that sack on the dowel and give it a wiggle, you'll find that when you pull the sack away, all of this black pastel will be
Will
on
be
the
on the
back of
Santa.
the sack, and that's telling you where all the high points are. Then you just take a gouge, a fairly shallow gouge, and just carve away those black points until all the black points are gone. And then you repeat that 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and you'll find that slowly this gap comes down until it's airtight.
So I put it on the Santa?
Yeah, I would put it on the Santa personally,
On the
because
Santa.
that allows you to carve away the sack. You could put it on the sack, but then you'd have to carve away the Santa, and I don't think you want to do that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Has anybody else used something different than the pastel or piece of lead that I described that would help Joy?
I use the same
Yeah,
principle.
Mark. Oh, I'm sorry. You go ahead, but
Yeah, I use the same principle, and the wife found some I forget what it's called now, but it's just like the carbon paper, and it was like a actual crayon, and that's what I use. Exactly the same principle. I learned it from Lynn Dowdy.
I think so, yeah.
One of the things that I've
yeah,
done on this is take the same piece of wood or some of the cut off of that and sand it down with my hand grinder and get a pile of sawdust, the same color, and then get some of the paint, the glue that is transparent. They have a couple of different kinds out now. They're transparent glue. You mix that with it. You make your own paste and stick it in that place, in those crevices, and it covers it right up. And then you just have to sand down that area, and it looks like it molds right into it. it's like a wood filler, only it's your own wood filler you're making, not something that somebody's made up. It's out of your own sawdust.
Okay.
Joy, one of the guys in my club has had this same thing, and he's in the middle of this. You can buy a wood putty that's like a really thick paste from Leave Valley Tools, and all he does is just squeeze it in the cracks, and you can smooth it out. You can use onto and a brush, and before it hardens, smooth it out. And when it dries and hardens, then you can sand it, and it can be painted on top, and it hides all the cracks. So Lee again, leave Valley Tools, and it
I have some
comes
putty.
in a tube, yeah, and you could use that, and glue it in as best you can, and then just fill all the cracks with the putty, and you could use a file. It can be carved too. It does carve, so you can carve it down and then sand and the whole thing, and no one will know the difference.
Okay, so you got some ideas there, Joy?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
Everyone.
Okay. And Murray, you've got a couple slides here. I think 2 slides.
These are Christmas gifts. There were commissions for people to ask me to do. The one on the left side is a grandfather that does everything. He's an all trades character, and it now is in Nova Scotia somewhere. This character, he likes to fish. He also carries his tools with it anywhere. So it's an exaggeration this way. He wasn't quite that size. He's a little bit smaller, but to make him look like he's all powerful, I put very big arms and very big muscles on his legs, just like a Superman. And then hanging his okay.
Hey, Mike, I'll just interrupt you here, Murray. Hey, Mike, if you just want to go on mute, that'd be great.
Love of God.
Mike, if you just want to go on mute, that'd be great, okay?
Anyway, to start again, that this caricature is for a young grandson that used to fish with this grandfather.
Yeah.
Asked for this carving for his mom. The grandfather passed away last year. He was always with the same red cap on, the same green shirt, and always wore sunglasses. So it caught him, and he's got his toolkit beside the water, fishing pole and his under his left arm with a hammer in the hand and some rainbow trout. The one on the right side is for another for a professor from Toronto area. He's the head of the astronomy area and teaches this all over the place. But he, in looking at that, he has discovered the Cat's Nebula, Cat's Eye Nebula, and the Cat's Tail Nebula, which are two different parts of the sky. So they were well received. And the one on the right hand side, there's another one coming up here. The husband got the astronomer, and then the wife gets the next picture.
Oh, okay.
And so here she gets the one with the artist painting the bear. And the son, when he gave these to his mom and dad, he had a video camera running and watched their reaction when they opened it up, and they were absolutely delighted with the thing. She couldn't believe it. The biggest trouble on the left-hand side, you can't see the face, it didn't send a picture of that, but the issue with this was the hair. In a little photograph that they gave me, it was kind of red, it was kind of brown. I did it too red, and my wife said that's not the right color, so I went a little bit darker. And when she opened up the parcel, her hair is the same color. The funny part of it, the son said, the hair color changes often, so you're lucky. And as part of the artist thing is when we do way back doing art classes in art school and that kind of thing, you had your life classes where in the center of the room, sitting on a pedestal of some sort, there would be a man or woman naked posed for you to draw the life in the life class. Well, she's got a caricature here. As a bear, he's laying down on his stomach inside, big belly. His hand is up at the side of his head, or his paws at the side of the head, and that's her life character. The paint box is full of paint tubes and brushes and that kind of thing. And on the right-hand side are the rainbow trout. Those I'm very proud of those because the color came out absolutely amazing.
Yeah, very nice.
The leather strip that I made up hung around the guy's neck rather than from his belt. So they were a delight to get the reaction back from the people. And these 3 carvings now produced 4 more requests for more, please. So it's been fun.
Good job. Okay, we're going to try to get Mike's attention here. Mike B, are you there? I don't know what's going on there. Can you mute Mike B, Murray?
I'll look at that. I'll try to get that.
Yeah, even if you have to mute everybody, that'd be great.
Yes. What in the wide world is sports?
Thank you. So can you still hear me?
Gotcha. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thanks for doing that, Murray. Okay, thank you everyone for that really good display of some beautiful carvings. Like there's so much talent out there. We're going to be tapping into each one of you and asking you to give us a little tutorial on some of these really nice carvings. One of the things that we really feel that would improve everyone's carving, certainly improved our carvings. Can you do that again or just dismiss Mike from the group, Murray?
Oh, I got it.
Yeah, if it comes up again, just dismiss him from the group, okay? So from a sharpening standpoint, really important aspect of carving.
What is yoga?
Time to say goodbye to Mike B, Murray. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a few photos of how I view sharpening. I'm not an expert on sharpening, but how I sharpen pleases me, and I'm happy with the result in my carvings. Open to complete conversation. So please chip in. At the tail end of this, there's a number of slides that people have sent in to me to talk about their sharpening method, and we're going to get to those, but pop into the conversation at any point in time. So this is an example of a duller knife. Okay, so this is actually a knife I used as a kid, and it was much bigger than that when I received it from my dad, and he told me how to sharpen it, and so it got very small, and because I was sharpening it all the time, and I was sharpening it with kind of the know-how I had as a kid, and the know-how that guys like my dad and fellas like him would have been using at the time, which would have been using a pretty rough stone and oil. And so I did a lot of whittling and carving with this over the years. And as I look at it now, this is a knife I still have, obviously, and it just sits in a drawer. I never use it for anything, but I pulled it out, and I just, given how dull it is and it hasn't been sharpened in years and years and years, and probably abused the last 20 years, this is the kind of cut it makes. And so everything you see here is in basswood, and everything you see is the mark of a really dull knife. And so what you see is the fibers are all being torn. There's nothing clean about the cut. You see huge striations in the cuts themselves. And so that is the mark of a dull knife. If you could feel what that looked like, you'd be pulling on that knife through the wood, and it'd be like, it'd be tough sledding. You'd be really pulling hard. It wouldn't be pleasant at all. This is a bit of a sharper knife. And so this is a knife that I would say is medium sharp. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. But I want to point out in this slide, because we're going to be coming back to it, there's a flat section of your knife, there's a beveled section of your knife, and then there's a highly beveled section of your knife. And that's this very bright area along here. That really bright area is the part that you're sharpening and that you're getting razor sharp. That's the business end of your knife. That's the part that's going to be doing the cutting. This here, you don't have to sharpen that. This is the part that you're worried about. But that's sort of what I'd call a medium sharp knife, and that's the kind of cut it makes in basswood. So you can see, you don't see the kind of torn fibers that you saw in the previous slide, but if you look, you can see some striations. So there are some striations, meaning that there are some dings or imperfections in that knife that as you drag it through the basswood, it's striating it. It's making a little valley into the basswood. Okay. Now here's a knife that that I use fairly regularly. I like this knife because it fits in my pocket, and when I go to the Kingston Club, I can just pull it out of my pocket, and I know I have a sharp knife. So this is what I would call a very sharp knife, and this is the kind of cuts that a very sharp knife makes. And so in this cut, you won't see any striations. You might see some grain of wood. You won't see any split or torn fibers in the wood. If I had this in different light, you would note that this has a very shiny surface. It's cut so cleanly that it almost looks like it's waxed. And if you ran your thumb over it or your finger over it, you'd see how smooth it is. And I'll say again, the process of carving is just so much more satisfying because the knife is doing all the work. Your hand isn't doing all the work trying to cut through fibers. Okay. Anybody have anything to say about those? Go ahead.
Just go back to about the third slide with this, the next.
That's the bad one.
Next to the picture of the knife, that nice shiny edge is the part when you put it down and I'm in a hurry and it hits another tool. That's where I get my striations from. One
you drop it on the ground.
Another just has to mess it up real quick.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So just to say there, so when you want a sharp knife and keep it sharp, put some sort of a protector on it when you put it down.
Yeah, good point. Thanks, Murray. So here's one of my first caricature carvings, and this is the little mountain man carving that we've all seen. I did it in butternut many years ago. I raise it up with you because I didn't do it with that really dull jackknife, but I did it with a dull enough knife that as I look back at it now, I can see a lot of torn fibers here. Even though I put a finish on it, I can see some torn fibers up here. I can see striations in the shoulder, see striations in here. As you take a little bit closer, I can see some fibers raised up. Again, you can see some pretty deep striations here that weren't meant to be there. And again, you can see these little spots where the knife almost chattered as I went down and I made these little divots. Okay, and so all of that, although I really enjoyed doing that carving, if I did that again, I would be doing it with a much sharper knife and I wouldn't be seeing any of these things that I just pointed out to you, okay? Here's a more recent picture of a carving that I did. Many of you have seen the hockey player I've done. And, there are some things that I'd go back and improve for sure, but you don't see any striations in this. You don't see any split fibers. You don't see any grain that split rather than got cut. And it's not because my capability as a carver, it's because I used a really sharp knife. And when you come in, this is a small carving, by the way. This is a blow up of a head that's probably 2.5 inches in length. But you can see there's no way I would have been able to get in and do that clean a cut around the eyes with a dull knife. I would have torn all of that, all of those fibers, because the grain of the wood is going in this direction and I'm cutting through the end grain of the wood. And so it really requires a sharp knife to get away with those kinds of things. And so that's the kind of thing a sharp knife will get for you. I'm going to be talking about sharpening. And I'm glad Murray said what he did, because sharpening is different than polishing. So what I'll say is the best thing for you to do with your carving knives is never sharpen them, polish them. As soon as you sharpen them, you've basically removed the manufacturer's edge that Murray was talking about. I only sharpen my carvings when there is damage to it. I've dropped the knife on the floor, or it's banged into something else, or there's something in the wood it banged into, or just long wear and tear has created enough damage on that sharp end of the blade, that little bevel that we both pointed out to you, that has created a striation. Other than that, I just polish, okay? Now, I know I'm talking to you and you've already sharpened your knife, and I've done the same thing to my knives. And so that's why we're talking about sharpening tonight, is because we've probably already done some damage to that manufacturer's edge, and now we want to remove that and get it back to as sharp as originally was. And we're going to be talking about grit. And so I just showed you 2 pieces of sandpaper here. Not that I use sandpaper to carve, although some people very successfully do. I just want to talk about the notion of grit. And so this piece of sandpaper is 600 grit. This piece of sandpaper is 800 grit. And what grit means is, if you can imagine a piece of window screen, like a mesh. Well, if the mesh is so small that in 1 square inch, there is 600 squares, that is grit. If it is coarse enough that in 1 square inch of mesh, there is only 80 openings, you get a coarser grit. And so that applies to sandpaper. It also applies to sharpening stones. You talk about the grit in sharpening stones. Higher number, finer grit, finer sharpening, lower number, coarser grit, coarser sharpening. Okay. There's a fantastic website called Science of Sharp, and you want to take a look at it. I think the guy is a scientist, an engineer, a metallurgist. He puts in some really interesting things, but here's a picture of a knife edge that has been magnified 300 times, and it was sharpened to something like 1,000 grit. And so you can see what happens to metal when you sharpen it. You can see all of those striations, and the edge itself, although it's super sharp, it's all curled up at the end, and it doesn't look sharp at all at 300 grit. And so, I just raised this up to you that sharpening really is beyond the kind of sharpening that I would have done as a kid, probably using a stone that was about 600 grit. It's well beyond that, and we want to talk about that. So to that point, when you're thinking about grit in terms of a stone that you might buy to sharpen with, not polish with, to sharpen with, coarse sharpening might start at 600. And so you'd use a coarse sharpening at 600 if you've really done some damage to your blade. If you almost with your eye can see that there's a problem with the edge of that blade. Medium sharpening is probably getting closer to about 1,200 grit. Fine sharpening is about 4,500 grit. And when you get a stone that's about 4,500 grit, you might even go away saying that's as smooth as glass. It's not. It's quite as, you can feel a little bit of drag on your hand, but not much. It's pretty fine, and that would be fine sharpening. Honing, where you put a polish on a leather strop and you hone the braid, that's more like 50,000 grit. And so just keep that in mind as we're talking about this, that the stones that I would have grown up with as a kid would have been 600 grit, and that was nowhere near the 4,500 grit that I need to get to before I start honing it on that leather strap. So just hold that thought, and I'll talk about that a little more, and so will some of the people that are going to join in with the photos they sent in. So again, as we said earlier, this is the sharp knife. You can see that really shiny edge that Murray said, you damage that, you bump into that, and you're in trouble. That's the piece that we're trying to sharpen and hone. On a gouge or a chisel of some sort, same thing. It's this bright edge that we're sharpening or honing. Okay, and so the picture that it came up was just that. This is a cross section of your knife blade. This is the beveled section you see, and then this here little piece at the end at a different angle is the sharpened section, and that's the part that you're going to be sharpening, okay? When you sharpen on a stone, and again, we're sharpening the blade because we've damaged it or see damage, you can do it in 2 directions. I tend to drag the blade across the stone towards me. Others like to push the blade away from them. The only argument I've heard of, and I don't know how valid it is, about pushing the blade away from you is that all of those little bits of metal that you're taking off, you're dragging your blade across it now. How valid that is, I don't know. I think I just do it in a pulling motion because that's probably the way my dad showed me how to do it, and I've done it all this years. And so I pull the blade across in that fashion. what's happening to your blade is when you pull it against whatever grit you're using, depending on the damage to your knife, you're creating a little burr, and that little burr of metal is coming up in this fashion, right? And so if you now turn it over, the blade over, and draw it in the opposite direction, that burr will be down, and that burr is now going to get scraped off onto your stone. A lot of people use water on their stone, and the water on the stone is simply there to help carry away those burrs as you're sharpening. Okay. The other thing I'll mention, and come back to this notion of grit, if you have damage to your knife such that you feel that you need to put it on a stone rather than just polishing it with polishing compound on leather, start high and work low. So if you have damage to your stone and you say, well, I'm going to start with 600 grit, the most coarse grit stone, you're probably going to do more damage to your knife than what was that you saw in the first place. So I'd say start higher, start at 4,500, start at 1,200. If that doesn't resolve the problem for you, then step up to coarser and coarser until it resolves the problem, and then start stepping back. So let's say that you have a major ding on the end of your knife. You start at 4,500, you take a look at it, still see the ding, can still see it in the wood that you cut. You go to 1,200, still see the ding. You have to go to 600. So you go to 600, you get the ding out, you think, you reason to yourself, that you've put more dings in it now with this coarse grit. You have to work back up now. Now that you've gone to 600, you have to go to 1,200. You have to go to 4,500. And I put 8,000 in here because some people go that high. I don't. I go to about 4,000 grit, but some people go to 8,000 grit. The sharpening tool that I use is this one. This happens to be about a 4,000 grit stone. It goes around, it revolves around pretty slow speed, about the speed of a long play record, 33 RPM. And I'm able, this mast here actually holds a water container, and there's a little spigot on the end, and it spills water onto the stone. And so this stone is always wet, and I'll put the blade down in one direction, turn the blade over, go in the other direction. Following that, I take a look at the blade, and if I'm satisfied that it can be polished, I use a honing
Mark,
Yes,
can you
Kevin.
back up? Can you back up? All right, I have one that goes like that. But then when I go to do my knife, when I'm doing it one direction, that's fine. When I flip it over, the stone's now coming towards my blade. Is that what you're doing on this as well?
Yeah, you have to. This one only goes in one direction.
Yeah,
Ideally, it would go in two directions, but unfortunately it doesn't. So it goes back to that notion I said earlier, some people feel that drawing the stone or the blade over a stationary stone has to be in one, pulling back. Others say going forward. I don't know which is right. I don't get too hung up by it with this stone. I get fairly good results from it.
Okay, so this is a stone.
This
is a
stone wheel. This is a stone, Kevin. I'd say that's probably about 1.5 inches, in width, that stone.
Okay, yeah, and I use mine for some honing with a leather piece, just like that.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. And so that's where this notion was going. Once I get that thing stoned to where I want it, then I say, okay, now if that's the notion that I've got it to 4,500, now I can go to the polishing compound, which is like tenfold more, like it's 45,000 grit. And so I really am polishing. And if I'm out at the carving club, I just bring something as simple as this to polish it against. If I'm home, I have this. And so this is just a little 1-inch belt sander. I put a leather belt on it. It's a little bit too fast for me. And so it's a matter, because this isn't as slow as I'd like it to be, it's a matter of me just touching the blade on that, turning the blade over, turning the blade to the other side, going the other direction, just touching it, not to allow that to be too long and burn the metal on the blade. Now, I am going to say this to you. If you do something like this, or you have something similar to this, keep in mind the direction of that leather. So the direction of this leather is in this direction. And so that means the blade is facing down, so it drags over it. If the blade is up, you're going to catch the leather, and the knife's going to fly out of your hand, and you're going to cut the leather. So be very, very aware of that. I know some people put a great big bright arrow just to remind them it's down, and so your blade is down. I hope you understand that.
Excuse me, Mark.
Yes.
With the RPMs, so what is a good RPM for something like that? Because you said this is a little bit too fast.
Yeah, I don't know, and get other people to chime in on this. I don't know what the best RPM is, but consider that when you do it by hand with this, your
Yeah.
RPM is super slow, right? And
Yeah.
so when you do it by hand, you might be pulling your blade over that leather portion or another larger piece of leather strop, maybe 50 times on one side and 50 times on the other side. I think that slow motion is a lot better for the blade. Again, would I do this because this is going too fast? I just touch it. I just it's just on, off. And then I turn my blade on, off, and I'm very careful to make sure the blade's oriented in the right direction so that it doesn't snag the leather. Now, I'm just going to be quiet. If somebody has a more intelligent answer to your question, chime in.
Just a comment here, Mark, the one of the fellows that we've had at our shows that has been quite successful at sharpening, honing, that kind of thing. He mentioned the fact that when you use an electric motor, typically the kind that you would have 1725 RPM, and you have a felt wheel on that, which could be equivalent to this leather belt. When you do the 1725 RPM, if you measure the around the wheel and then multiply the 1725, touching it, holding it too long, it's like wiping the thing the entire length of a football field. Very short distance, very short time, I should say. And the danger of it is what you've mentioned is just to touch it a little bit and pull it off. It doesn't heat the blade up, which the danger is you can burn the blade and take the tempering away that was put on at the factory, and then you'll be sharpening forever. You'll always have a problem because it gets too soft. Now, going way back into a shop class back, I'm turning 80 this year, so this is going a long ways back into shop class in high school. The prof or the teacher was an excellent woodman, and his first job was to show us how to sharpen the blade of a plane, a wooden plane. And so when he was doing the push-pull kind of thing, he showed us when you pushed it on the stone, and you see the oil on the stone would roll up ahead of the blade, you knew that the blade was touching perfectly flat. But if you pushed it and it didn't get that roll up in front of the blade, it meant that you were starting to round off your blade on the other side. And that was a major problem because you could never really get it sharp. You're always messing around with a different angle. So it's just some of the thoughts on that. But just again, what you're saying with your delta there, is just touch it a little bit.
You just touch it. Now, Alex sent in these shots, and Alec, you might be able to provide a bit of a perspective on that question about speed. Are you there, Alec? If you're there, you'll have to come off of mute. Okay, Alec bought these, I think, at Chipping Away, and so he's got you can see a couple of things here. So to the earlier question, this is kind of the same thing that I have with my little Delta unit, but it's designed to be a much slower speed, and so Alec uses it for that purpose. And I think it was Alec that also said that, to Murray's earlier point, that he keeps just a little cup of water beside it. So even though this is going at a slower speed, he'll strop it with a polishing compound on the leather. Then he'll just put the blade in the water, cool it off if it needs to be cooled off, dry it off, and then strop again. This is another interesting strop that I think he once again got from Chipping Away. So you can see this a leather disc here, similar to this, but a disc. And then on this side, a variety of different contours for the inside and outside of a variety of different size gouges. So that's another way to think about stropping.
And Mark,
Yes.
just so you're aware, the one on the machine on the left there that has the maple wheels, that larger wheel that you pointed to on the right-hand side of that is actually wood. There's
Oh,
no
it's wood, is it?
leather on
Oh,
it.
okay. Oh,
Yeah,
very good.
yeah, there's you can get a nice smooth surface on it. You know, when you put the compound on, sometimes I take a light paper bag and hold it onto it so that it not too long because it gets pretty hot.
Yeah.
But it'll really put that compound on at a very even it gives you a very even surface to work on.
Very good. Okay, thanks, Sue.
You're welcome.
Now, Dave Laux also sent in something. So if you just look at this section here of this particular tool, this right here. So what Dave has gone and done is he's created a little tool rest for that. And now this is a piece of sandpaper he has here. So don't think of this as sharpening a knife. But when he goes ahead and starts stropping, I suppose, he uses this little tool. So he built that little tool to just complement the tool, the portable tool that we saw earlier. Dave also develops some little cardboard templates. So when he's sharpening his knives, he knows that he's sharpening either at a 15 degree or a 20 degree. And I think that's a really interesting thing to do. I also have heard people, if they're uncertain about the angle to put their knife when they're sharpening on a stationary stone, they just put a coin under here, like a quarter or something like that, and just maintain the same kind of height with the same coin that they use, and they'll always repeat the same angle at the cutting edge. So all those good ideas. Wayne has done something a little innovative. Wayne, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah. Okay, I know we're running late here, but this is strictly for honing. If you look at it closely, you'll see that it was a 3-brush floor polisher. And they're getting scarce. They are, or I thought they were. I've acquired a couple of them now. But anyway, I take the brushes off, cut the bristles off, and fasten a plywood disc in place where the bristles were. This one I did two plywood discs for each brush set, and thinking that maybe I would take them off, put leather on one, grit on the other, whatever, but I didn't. I used industrial Velcro, and you don't need that because I pretty near destroyed it taking it apart just to take these pictures. But I use it for honing. I know you guys talk about speed and stuff. I've never had a problem. It turns fairly fast, but I mean, I don't stand there and hold my knife on it and go to sleep or anything. But it does a wonderful job. And what I like about it is that one wheel turns counterclockwise, the other one turns clockwise. So somebody mentioned earlier, our Mark there when he showed his machine.
Kevin was mentioning it.
Yeah, right. They're not ideal for knives because I spent $300 for a Work Sharp 3000 thinking I had the ultimate sharpener, and as far as I'm concerned, it's no damn good for a knife at all. So anyway, I did this. I've had it. I think I made it in about 2010 or 2011, and it's worked flawlessly. I use green compound from Lee Valley. I did a video. If anybody's interested, they can go to YouTube and just put in homemade honing machine plus Wayne Smith, and you'll come up there. It's about 11 years old, and it's I think about a 3 or 4 minute video explaining how I did it. And
that's great.
Anyway,
thank you, Wayne. That's great.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No problem.
And Mike, I've got 4 slides here, and we'll get you to take us home.
Okay. This is for working on your outside bevels, either with your round gouges or with V tools. The stick on the left is just a piece of 1x2, and some honing compound, and there's the tool. Next.
And the dowel on the right is for the inside.
Oh, yeah, the dowel's for the inside bevel for that actual one. So you can buy dowels, of course, all different sizes. Just throw on some honing compound, and that can tidy up the inside bevel when you're honing that. But I'm more focusing here on the outside bevel. So basically, on that stick, I just do a groove up to the height of the gouge itself. So try to make it as straight as possible. I used a bench hook just to hold it in there, and cut the groove down so it matches it'll be an exact match to the tool. Next. Okay, so here's the groove made. It's, maybe 7 to 10 inches long. And then I've got some honing compound. So next shot. So I put honing compound in there, and you can actually, just scrape some in there or get it in there on an angle. And you could use the tool itself, pull the tool back. This happens to be a 9F15 Swiss gouge. And you can make a set of these, and I just write on the stick what it is that which one matches which tool. I found this idea really useful, especially for the tiny ones, like say the smallest flex cut V and U gouges, because often people find when they're so tiny they can't really see what they're doing. However, if you use the tool itself to create the groove or the V groove, then when you pull back, you're going to be following exactly the same shape as that tool. So I found that was a really nice idea, very inexpensive way to sharpen up the all-important outside bevels on those tools. That's it.
Very good. Okay, any questions for I guess it was Wayne and Mike got a chance to talk about their pieces.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yeah, one question, honing compound. Everyone talk about the honing compound, the green one. Anyone with experience using diamond paste? Some people recommend diamond paste over the green compound. Does it make a difference?
I'm afraid I don't have any experience with that, Jacques.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
No, me either.
We'll
Nope.
have to look that up and ask a few questions. That's a good question. You stumped the panel.
The diamond compound has worked. I haven't done a lot of it, but I was talking with somebody at Lee Valley about it, and they said it does work, but it's also mucky with the compound.
Yeah, probably much more expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you have to keep purchasing the compound because you have to use more of it than you do the green honing compound.
Yeah. And just one comment, page 64, you were showing a red belt sander. They're made in Quebec by a company called VL. And you could buy many attachments to put gouges or blade or planer blades and different types of tools to sharpen them.
It's the name of the company is what, Jacques?
VL, VIEL.
Okay.
VL. They make a lot of woodworking tools. Most of them are industrial.
Very good. Well, we'll look that up. Thank you.
The red one that you showed from somebody that they bought chipping away, it's made by Veal.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I have one as well. It's very heavily modified. A friend of mine did it, but it's got like way too many little bells and whistles, but it works well, and it goes in 2 directions. I've got a toggle switch attached on it, so I can get it going forward and backward. But good machine. Yeah.
But what about speed? Because I have one as well, but it's just an off-the-shelf motor, and most of them are around 1800, and I find that's too fast.
It is a little bit fast. I have one that was made from an old shoe polisher from a hotel lobby, and it turns at 1770, and just that little bit less makes a big difference. To me, that one is ideal.
Okay.
Something you have to probably experiment with on all of these things, but we shouldn't we shouldn't turn anybody off just doing this by hand. Just having a leather strop, just like your old-time barber used to have, that does a really nice job on a knife. But the point I was trying to make during the whole thing is that you can't sharpen your knife with 600 grit and then strop it and expect to have results. You're
Mhm.
going from 600 grit to 45,000 grit in one step. Like you have to at least go up to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 grit before you can really get any performance out of that strop. So just keep that in mind and play with sharpening. You know, it's you know, I'll end it with what I started with. I think that it really improves your carving by 20%. So it'll improve your carving more than going to any instructed class if you just learn how to sharpen your knife really well.
Mhm.
Okay.
I like to say too is a dull knife is a dangerous knife. Like it'll slide on you and it'll skip and you'll get cut. So a sharp knife is a lot more it's more safe.
That's right. Thanks for that, John. That's a good point. Okay, John, we're gonna get to your topic next time around. And
Sounds good.
But it was a really good discussion tonight. Thanks everybody for joining us, and hope everybody got something out of it. And have some fun carving, and we'll see you next time.